Hey YouTube, today I'm going to give you some tips and advice on flights and where to stay before a cruise. And with the Atlantis January 2022 cruise on the Oasis of the Seas coming up just in a few weeks, I'm going to use that as an example. In the meantime, between now and that January cruise, I'm going to be doing more cruise advice videos right here on my JustJoeyT channel. So please hit the subscribe button and then click the bell right beside it to make sure you get the notifications for whenever I post up a new video. First off, the most important thing you need to know is that the ship waits for no one. If you remember nothing else from this video, please remember that. A lot of times when you fly for an event or to parties or to see family even, whatever it is, it's not a huge deal if your flight got delayed or canceled and you have to rebook for the next day. However, you're flying in for a cruise and your flight gets delayed and you don't make it for when the ship sets sail, you just missed the whole cruise. But hopefully with the tips and tricks I give you in this video, that will not happen to you. First of all, you gotta know which cruise port you're sailing out of. To use the January 2022 cruise as an example, we're gonna be sailing out of Port of Miami, which is in Miami, Florida. In some places, there are multiple cruise ports that are in close proximity to each other. Miami is actually a good example because in nearby Fort Lauderdale, there is another large cruise port called Port Everglades. The January 2022 Atlantis cruise specifically is out of Miami and not Port Everglades, so make sure you don't go to the wrong port. Once you know exactly where the port is, then you can look up airport options, assuming you do have to fly in, you're not local. In the case of Miami, you actually have two airports you can fly into. You have Miami International, MIA, or you have Fort Lauderdale Hollywood, FLL. Miami International Airport is quite close to the Port of Miami, but Fort Lauderdale is only about 30 to 40 minutes away by car. Usually when people flying for a cruise, they're flying in the day before the cruise sets sail. In the case of the January 2022 cruise, it sails on Sunday, so a lot of people would by default fly on the Saturday. And that usually works out really well. Most people are working until Friday, then they have Saturday as their travel day to fly into wherever the city, the cruise port is, and then they sail out on the Sunday. However, in these COVID times, at least domestically here in the US, last minute airline cancellations I've noticed have become more and more popular by some of the airlines. So for those who want to play it safe and can afford to do so, you can consider flying in 2 days before, such as on Friday. In the very off chance that your flights on Friday get canceled, you're likely to be able to rebook for flights on Saturday, then you would just arrive Saturday night and then you'll still be able to get onto the ship on Sunday without any problems. Coming in a couple of days before is also nice to help transition from regular everyday life and into vacation mode is what I like to call it. Getting there a couple of days before, let's say you do fly in on Friday, then you have Saturday to basically just relax and then kind of ease your way into that vacation mode so that by the time Sunday comes along, you are really in a great mindset and a really great place for getting on the cruise. In terms of what areas to stay in, what kind of accommodations to get, I usually like to play it safe and stay somewhere that's close to where the port is. Because me personally, when I wake up on the day of the cruise, I like to not be in a rush. So instead of having to be in like a 30-40 minute car ride to the port, I would like it to be more like a 15-minute car ride so that I don't have to like get up extra early. I have time to wake myself up, do whatever, just have like a nice relaxing start to my vacation that morning. And I don't want to have to stress about like, oh, there's gonna be traffic, or like, oh, I'm gonna have time to like pick up something last minute that I forgot before. For me, you know, I'm about to start a week-long vacation. Whatever I can do to reduce the stress that very first day of the cruise is beneficial to me. So that's why I would usually like to pick a hotel that's pretty close to where the port is. It might not be in an area where there's a lot of stuff happening. There's not bars or nightlife or whatever going on in that area where the hotel is that I'm staying at. But come Sunday morning or the day that the cruise sets sail, I usually have a very nice, enjoyable, relaxing start to my vacation. So to use the Port of Miami as an example again, because that's where the January 2022 cruise is sailing out of, some nearby areas that I would personally look to stay in would be South Beach, downtown Miami, the Brickell area that is near downtown Miami. I've stayed there a lot of times and it's a nice little area and I've stayed in there several times with different cruises. Now, if you're coming in a little bit earlier, you're not just coming the day before the cruise, maybe you want to come in 2, 3, even 4 days beforehand where you're going to be hanging around Miami or whatever city you're flying into for like a little while. That's where it might make more sense to book a hotel that's closer to certain things or attractions that you might want to visit or stay closer to for those days that that you are there before you hop onto the cruise. In terms of accommodations, usually when my friends and I travel in a group, no matter where we go, we usually like to rent a house so that we can all kind of stay together and kind of cook meals together and kind of hang out together. It's a lot easier to do that in like one big house than in separate little hotel rooms. So if you do have like a group of people, especially a larger group, that you're all flying in together from the same city, for example, and you guys all plan to hang out before the cruise, I think that makes sense to go get like an Airbnb or something like that. Otherwise, I would actually recommend a hotel in this case, because especially if you're flying in just the day before and you're not gonna be staying there for a very long time, I think it's better to just go for something that's convenient and easy. And with a hotel, one is very easy to find. The Uber is probably not gonna get lost trying to find a hotel. Checking in and checking out is really easy. You don't really have to clean up a whole ton when you check out of a hotel because they have a cleaning staff. Basically, because a hotel is pretty like full service and have like a whole staff on site to like take care of things, it makes your life as a traveler a little bit easier when you're there for maybe not even 24 hours to just kind of get in quickly or get out quickly. Most people are flying into the cruise 1, maybe 2 days before, and the hotel, it's just a place to sleep before they head onto the cruise. So that's why I think the conveniences that come with a hotel is beneficial in this case. And there are some cruise-specific gatherings or get-togethers, usually at the city of the port the night before. But I don't think you need to get a place that's close to where those things are. Because usually, one, they'll try to organize those things to be kind of sort of close-ish to where the port is, because they know that a lot of people will be getting places close to the port. And the second thing is you can just easily Uber a lift there for that one night. And for the checkout time for your hotel or Airbnb, the standard checkout times of around 10 or 11 a.m.-ish is actually perfect for a cruise, because usually for a cruise, you need to get to the port no later than 11 or 12. It depends a little bit on the port and also depends on the cruise. The standard checkout times are when you need to leave the hotel or the Airbnb by is usually the time that you would want to start heading for the port anyways. All right, so all of that takes care of, flying into the cruise before the cruise actually sets sail, and then where to stay, and then your accommodations. I want to talk a little bit quickly about what happens after the cruise is done. Most people fly home the day that the cruise docks back at port, because the cruise actually docks back quite early at like 5 or 6 a.m. And disembarkation for the passengers usually starts around 8 a.m.-ish, give or take. And usually by 10 or 11, all the passengers are off the ship. So because of that timeline they have for disembarking passengers, most people choose to book flights in the afternoon to fly back home. I'd say don't book a morning departure for when the cruise gets back. Even though passengers probably will start disembarking around like 8 or 9 a.m.-ish, you're probably not gonna make a flight that's like 11 a.m. because there's probably gonna be a little bit of traffic where the port is, because there's probably gonna be 3, 4, 5 other cruise ships with thousands of passengers, because they all tend to disembark at the same time. They all get back in the morning. They all tend to have to disembark all their passengers during the morning so that their crews can clean the ship and get ready for a new set of passengers to embark in the afternoon. So there is gonna be a little bit of traffic at the port when you get off, even if you get off relatively early. A noontime-ish or a really early afternoon flight is probably the most you can push it. And if you can commit to getting off the ship really early ahead of most of the passengers and just be really on it that morning when the ship docks back, and assuming traffic is not a complete shit show, I think you have a decent but maybe slightly marginal chance of making a flight that's around noonish or like 1 p.m. Just keep in mind that if you have any luggage to check with your airline, usually you need to be at the airport at least an hour, maybe more, depending on if it's a domestic or international flight, before they close the luggage check-in or they close the check-in counters for your flight. And if there's any lining up at the security checkpoint at the airport, and who knows, sometimes it's a short wait, sometimes the line is like out the terminal, that's gonna add to the amount of time you need as well. And then you're sitting in traffic between the port and the airport. Basically, all these factors makes it a little bit marginal if you have like a noontime-ish flight coming out of the cruise. So your safest bet is like a mid or late afternoon flight, something that's like 2, 3, 4, 5 p.m. Obviously, depending on where you're flying to and what flights are available out of the airports in the area, that's not always possible. But generally, that's your safest bet to make sure that you have lots of time to get off the ship and get onto your flight. To use Miami as an example, this is where it might be advantageous to fly out of Miami International Airport and not the Fort Lauderdale Airport. Again, it really depends on, you know, where you're flying to, because there might only be like 1 or 2 flights out of the whole Miami area, both of those airports, to go to that destination. But the advantage flying out of Miami International instead of Fort Lauderdale is that it could be 30 to 40 minutes by car in a taxi or an Uber or a Lyft to get from the port to Fort Lauderdale. And sometimes 30 to 40 minutes can mean the difference between catching your flight and missing your flight. Otherwise, if your schedule and personal situation allows it, there's always the option just, hey, stay in Miami for like a little while. You know, you don't have to fly home right away, even though most people tend to do that. You're for sure free to just stay in Miami and just have a couple of days of transitioning back to normal life on land. All right, YouTube, those are all my tips and tricks and suggestions and advice for what you should do for flights and accommodations both before and after the cruise. If you're going to be going on the January 2022 Atlantis cruise on board the Oasis of the Seas, I will see you there in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, between now and that January cruise, I'm going to be doing more cruise advice videos right here on my JustJoeyT channel. So please hit the subscribe button and then click the bell right beside it to make sure you get the notifications for whenever I post up a new video. Until the next video, bye YouTube. Okay, you always need to check your hair first before you turn the camera on.